Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 45.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Don Cardenas, and I'm going to keep this intro very short. It is very hot out. I have the AC and fans off in the office studio area, and it's not pleasant. So forgive my brevity this week with the intro. So let's just go right to it. First up, once again, this week's show is brought to you by Nosk of the Void. Now, if you haven't been listening for the past few weeks, that's perfectly fine. But Nosk of the Void is the black metal project from acclaimed artist Chuck Beebe, and it is a killer EP. It's based off the hit video game Hollow Knight, and it's just some really cool, just black metal. It's not like super noisy or indecipherable. It's definitely got that feel of like that vibe, but it's very listenable. It's very groovy. And it's very awesome. And as part of the sponsorship, Chuck is offering some free download codes for the album off of Bandcamp. All you have to do is get a hold of me at the show, and I'll send you a link and a download code. So just contact me on Twitter at Don Cardenas Art or at Comics Coffee Metal, CMX Coffee Metal, and I will send you a download link and a code. Now, there's only a handful left, so be sure to jump on that as soon as possible. Chuck's going to be a guest in a few weeks, and once he's on the show, this promotion will be ending. Now, I'm previewing some of the music after this, and I assure you, and you're going to hear, it is awesome. So remember, all you have to do to get a free download code is just hit me up on Twitter at Don Cardenas Art or at CMX Coffee Metal. Alright, for comic recommendations this week, I am going with the graphic novel Static. This was released by Dark Horse. It is by Matt Lesniewski and colors by Carlos Badilla. Matt both wrote and drew all the line art, and it is a really trippy, cool, weird, beautifully drawn graphic novel. It's the gist of the story is it's about a man named Emmett who's fighting some personal demons, and he's got this job where he has to acquire certain items for a scientist, and he starts to have a change of conscience, so to speak. And yeah, it's about him kind of looking for some type of redemption, and it's just really cool. It goes into some really weird places, and I thought it was highly enjoyable. Matt's art, I've been a fan of his for quite a while. He has a great way to just a great way of like creating these like elongated figures, but they also, you know, they're simultaneously like seemingly like pointed and sharp and rigid, but also very fluid and just have weight and roundness to them. It's really amazing stuff. He does a really great job with the storytelling here. He is no slouch in that aspect. He lets the art do a lot of the talking, and he certainly backs it up. There's plenty of sequences where there's no words, there's just Emmett or someone else going through some actions and doing things, and it's fantastic. It's a visual treat to see this stuff. It's very small panels depicting a lot of actions, and just the way he chooses to frame some moments where you think this might be a bigger moment or a smaller moment or a full splash page. Just the way he does it, not quite how you would expect, but works perfectly. This is all bolstered by Carlos Badilla's just amazing colors. This thing definitely feels like some like European comic. Like this, I'm surprised this wasn't like a blurb here saying this was collected from issues whatever of heavy metal in 1988 or something like that. It's just really kind of spacey out there stuff towards the end, and I really, really, really dug it. Another thing Matt does with the art is he uses a lot of perspective, like he kind of like jams it into a corner and creates this like extra long, almost surreal, forced perspective, or just actual accurate perspective. But just to where he positions the horizon lines and all that, it just adds to the overall surreal nature of the book. Static was something I've been really wanting to read, and I'm really hoping to get Matt on the show one day and chat him up about this and all his other art, because again, his style is very unique, but it's just very, very cool, and I'm a very big fan. So yeah, Static, available on Comixology at your comic shops, released by Dark Horse. It should be easy to get anywhere, but yeah, highly recommend. Okay, so for music recommendation this week, I have the new LP from the band Distant, Aeons of Oblivion. Now, that name may seem a little familiar. I talked about their EP, The Eternal Lament, a few episodes ago, and unbeknownst to me, it was just a precursor to a full-length album. And everything I said about that EP, about how brutal it was, how amazing it was, is just amplified to 11 with this LP. They are very much in the death metal, black metal vein, but it's less super fast, blast beat, tremolo picking kind of stuff, and more just like bludgeoning you to death with just super heavy down-tuned riffs. Still blast beats, plenty of blast beats, and just like these low, down-tuned growl vocals, and just really excellent atmospheric instrumentation happening. It's just, it's very, I just can't find a better word for it. It's just brutal. It just pounds the living shit out of you, and it's amazing. When I was finished listening to this album, I was just like, because it contains all the songs from the EP, which was great, because I'm like, okay, I know the song, I'm kind of used to the song, I'm not getting my ass kicked so hard by this song. But some of the other ones off the LP now are just, I kind of needed a break. I was kind of happy that the album ended. It's a long album. It's 59 minutes. It's 19 tracks on here. It's sure there's some interludes here and there and all that, but yeah, it's a Punisher, and in a good way. It's definitely an experience. And if you have bass heavy headphones or whatever, I suggest you make sure you turn the volume down a little bit. Otherwise you're going to be experiencing probably some permanent damage here. It is a thick album. I'm so glad I discovered this band. It's just really, really awesome stuff. Now, I do have a new favorite track in this grouping, and that is the title track, Aeons of Oblivion. It is just almost relentless, and it's only the fourth track on the album, and after that finished, I'm like, man, am I gonna need a break? This is crazy. But yeah, Aeons of Oblivion is just super awesome. But I also still enjoy the other tracks that were on the LP, like The Eternal Lament or Dusk of Anguish, but there's just so many more just new jams. Like the second track, Hellmouth, is aptly named. it is it's just crazy. I feel like I'm talking in circles just because just even thinking about this album's got my head ringing a little bit. But yeah, Distant, Aeons of Oblivion. Here's the title track. If this isn't heavy enough for you, then I relinquish all my heavy metal credentials to you. Then, if you do not think this is heavy, you can have my credentials. You can call me a poser, and I will not fight. So yeah, definitely check out Distant, Aeons of Oblivion, available everywhere. Okay, so my guest this week is the amazing artist and writer Christine Larsen. I had first come across her work. I'm sure I've seen it plenty of times before, being retweeted or reposted somewhere, but I didn't really start following her and all that until the series Orcs. I talked about Orcs before on the show as a recommendation, and it is just an incredibly fun and beautifully done book, and I couldn't wait to get her on the show and talk to her about the inspirations for that. A ton of metal talk. She is much more metal than I, so she has some really cool metal bands and stuff, and some really kind of offbeat musical choices that she's recommended that I'm certainly looking forward to checking into. And yeah, just super fun person to talk to. We talked for a whole bunch before the recording, after the recording, and probably could have kept going on after. But yeah, she's super great to talk to. She's an amazing talent, and I am so glad we had a chance to chat. So I really think you're going to enjoy this. Christine Larsen, let's go. So there is very few, I think, comics out there these days that kind of capture a certain part of my heart that, you know, craves fantasy storytelling, humor, heart, and just a whole lot of fun. And I am incredibly happy I came across Orcs when I did, and I have a ton of questions about this amazing series you've started. But Christine Larsen, before we say anything about the amazing cast, the awesome art, the hilarious writing, I have to ask you, comics, coffee, metal, what are you digging right now?
Okay, so comics, I haven't been reading a ton of comics right now, because whenever I finish a comic, I try not to look at too much. But what did I pull out? I don't know. Not a ton of comics. I have Berserk waiting for me when I get done with this, and that's like my treat to myself. Coffee, I just have garbage coffee. But yeah, it's whatever the ShopRite brand is. But I don't know, lots of that. I actually cut down my coffee a lot lately, but as much as I can do without getting jittery. And metal has been like Weed Eater. I've been listening to so much Weed Eater lately. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Weed Eater and like Electric Wizard has been.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Just like between the two of them, that's been like almost this whole book.
That totally makes sense, given the vibe of the book. I would say even some Orange Goblin. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah, I've been mostly like doing like the doomy like Sleep has been a big on my playlist. I like pop on the Sword once in a while, but really the Sword is just it's not noodly enough for me. I guess songs are too short, right?
Yeah. They're. I mean, I like the Sword. I respect them immensely as musicians and all that, but when it comes to like, it's like a good like intro to Doom for somebody. Like if you want to get them to kind of get into that doomy stuff, it's like, well, here's this is a little more rock than doom metal.
100%. Baby's first Doom album is the Sword. Yeah,
that's probably the best description for them. Baby's first Doom album.
yeah. So you know who I've been listening to recently? I found them randomly on Spotify. Wait, where are they? Motherfucker, where are you? Oh, sorry.
Oh, you can swear away.
Can I curse? Okay, cool. Cool. It's something with an H. It's like Hexen. Wait, where are you? Stuff I recently. Oh, Hex Vessel.
Hex Vessel. Okay.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of like. They have this album called. Where is it? What is it? The album is When We Are Death, and it's not like doom metal. It's a little bit more. It reminds me more like kind of like proggy doom rock, I guess. But it has a very like acid rock 70s vibe to it, and I've been listening to them this past week a ton.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like a lot of doom metal, and I had a real big doom metal kick for a while, and there's so many great bands in that. It's like, I don't know if you've played music before or you've know any instruments, but like also doom metal is like really just kind of like fun to play.
Yeah. I mean, I was like a wind instrument kid when I did band long ago, but like my husband plays guitar, so like I appreciate it from the perspective of someone who likes watching someone else play. Yeah, when I was playing music, I realized I liked listening to music more than playing music, so I kind of concentrated on art. Um, but uh, but yeah, the Doom is in terms of just something to, just because my inks get very like dense and hatchy, I'll just like toss that on and let it roll.
That's awesome. It's I was gonna ask you what, like, you know, was there like a musical accompaniment in your head to Orcs, and this seems perfect.
Yeah, like Doomy stuff. Like it's tough because obviously like what turns me on and gets me going with stuff is gonna be different than like someone else reading it. But definitely like a lot of like so much Goliath and like so much Weed Eater. Like
there's there's this overall because the story in Orcs, it's, you know, it's very much centered around the main group, but you do an excellent job of kind of setting up this huge world, this huge epicness of this world that's going on around them with these histories and these, you know, folk tales and or, you know, and
there's a lot. It gets dense, and I'm kind of glad I have the room to do it that I have, because I don't think it would really fit into like just 6 issues.
No, definitely. And you know, seeing where the story is right now, with the now released 5th issue and all that, like, yeah, I can't imagine what you're setting up like being like resolved by the end of 6 issues. Like, oh no, there's some stuff here that gotta get chewed on. I feel
like the first 6 issues end you at a good place, because you're going to be waiting for me to draw the next one, right? And I'm not even sure if it's going to come out as issues or just a graphic novel. But like that's up to the publisher. I don't know what Boom does, whatever they do. But I feel like I kind of left it at a good spot in terms. I mean, I sent you the inks. People can know. I you know, I so you kind of read ahead.
Yeah,
I feel like it doesn't leave you in a spot that's like, oh no, like it's not a cliffhanger.
No,
right? It resolves itself for now.
Yeah, if it wasn't, you know, ever returned to, it'd be disappointing, and just in the fact that you'd want to see more. But the story that you're telling, it resolved itself. It you know, there's a satisfying ending there, but you definitely want more. Earlier, you kind of compared it to, like, you know, the Fellowship of the Ring, like in terms of where it is in that scale, which you did a great thing with the I'm not super up on, like, as much as I like fantasy stuff and I like you know, sword and sorcery stuff, you know, I don't know, you have some elf-like characters called wardens. Is that a usual term for those things, or is that something you made up?
So there is definitely, I definitely like am playing off the Tolkienian naming of things. So the human characters in there, the wardens, those are the rangers. That's what Aragorn is, right? In the Lord of the Rings. Like even the mountains they live in, they're not the misty mountains or the foggy peaks. Like I am like noting off of the original, the Tolkien stuff a little bit, because, you know, that's how I got into fantasy as a kid. I'm not necessarily trying to rewrite his history. It's my own thing, but it's like a nod, you know, of that more than anything. But yeah, the Rangers are normally, I mean, even in gaming, I think they would call them Rangers. They're the wardens.
Okay, that makes more sense. I guess in my brain I'm just like thinking, oh, they're in the forest, elves.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely not like it never once came across like, oh, she's just, you know, doing Tolkien riffs. It's definitely like, oh, this is, you know, part of the inspiration, but that's, you know, any fantasy book published after the Lord of the Rings is going to have that.
That's very true. And I mean, if anything, I feel like I'm doing more of like a Mel Brooks Young Frankenstein than I am trying to like make fun of it. It's a send up to it, definitely, but not. I'm not trying to recreate it or even like make fun of it. I don't know, in a mean way.
The humor that you have in the book isn't. You're not making fun of the genre. No, it's within the characters. Like, I before we started recording, I mentioned like this book in whole has made me cackle a few times. And
Yeah.
there's a scene where a character just says, "Not now, Denise." And I just, this, the timing of it and everything was absolutely perfect. And I just like, yeah, I just was cackling away at that. It was just so just hilarious. And it's not making fun of anything other than just an interaction between the characters. Or
Yeah, I've personally always enjoyed books where the humor, in terms of comedy, where the humor is centered around the plot, as opposed to humor being centered around like a pop culture reference or something like that. And it's just personal preference in terms of like the stuff I find funny versus, I don't know, some other stuff I've seen, which will make to the day references, almost like Saturday Night Live-ish, and that's like, it's that kind of stuff doesn't. I never laugh at that stuff as much as I laugh at stuff that like the characters are doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think while sometimes it's you can find a humor in making fun of a thing while you're also being that thing. I think like the most resonant humor for me is when it's between the characters, when it's just character driven interactions and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to diss any kind of, it's just like a preference, I guess, both in writing and just like what I consume generally.
Yeah, totally. So earlier today I took to Twitter and I asked a few questions, and I'll be peppering them throughout the episode. This first question, you did answer it on Twitter, as I said before, emphatically, but we'll ask it again.
For the people not on Twitter,
to the very very nice and awesome @Grant and stuff asked. He asked, "Do you really hand letter orcs?"
Yes, I really hand letter orcs.
And it looks great. It's
Thank you.
It's so good where it's like, I had trouble like is this a font, like, because some people get your handwriting made into a font.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like for me, like the hand lettering is the easiest part of the whole book, because it's very like zen, even more so than just inking, which I'm fairly comfortable with. Like the hand lettering it's time consuming, but it's also like, I don't know, I have a really good time doing it. So.
No, it really works, especially with the art style you have, and it really, it definitely makes it feel more lived in the world. I think, and I think it's a great choice to make sure that you did that.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of direct interaction with like characters and the text, and then like I have tucked text boxes back behind characters so much, like like just like little part of the bubbles and everything. So I don't know, it's a way for me to compose them without, and there's like especially pages where there's a lot of talking, I can get a lot of talking in there without it covering up artwork.
Yeah. Do you typically script out before you start any of the actual artwork, or is it kind of plot?
I totally script out.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I've posted before on like various social media accounts. I have an editor, so like I have to like send all that to them anyway. But I have a great editor. But I have a notebook that I will, as I write, I like thumb and write at the same time. I basically write an outline and kind of like benchmark myself in terms of where I want the story to go. And sometimes I'll have like little like scenes worked out in my head already, and I'll kind of write those down. And I'll take that and I'll draw out the little thumbs at about like I guess like 1.5 inches high by however wide proportionally, and I'll thumb out the whole book in spreads. So I have a notebook that's like just all the orcs thumbs from top to bottom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
a nice little artifact, definitely.
Is that something that would potentially be in a collected edition, as some back matter, or?
I know when we do the trade that they are going to post a few, like I'm sure I'm going to get a couple pages of that, not the whole thing, because it's like 20 pages of a notebook, or 20-30 pages, like front and back. So yeah, I mean, I posted all that stuff is up on my Patreon, so like patrons can see that stuff. But I don't think the whole book will ever be anywhere. I don't know. Maybe one day.
I'm a huge nerd for that kind of stuff in collections.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's my favorite stuff to see, more so than the actual book sometimes, just because it's good to see, it's nice to see process and how people work things out.
Yeah, where it all comes from, definitely.
And it's, as someone who has struggled with kind of defining how they approach things and how they want to break things down, I always like seeing, especially when it's a book I like, like, oh well, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Another thing about the book that I really enjoyed is the coloring.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a big fan of textures with coloring and all that, and you kind of have this static, I think, or just this general texture over.
Oh yeah, it's honestly, it's super basic. It's just a dissolve filter on my gradients. So whenever I lay gradients in, they have a dissolve filter on them.
It looks really great.
Yeah, a lot of people always comment on it. It's the most super basic Photoshop thing in the whole world. I did a coloring tutorial for people, you could buy in and watch it live, and I was like, I can't believe you guys paid for this, because it's the most basic. All my coloring is the most basic color theory you could ever imagine. It's just like you would paint something, just on the computer.
Well, yeah, it's you say it's basic, but there's choices made and certain techniques used and things like that. Like right now, I'm looking at there's a issue where there's a giant spider.
Yeah, matron spider.
Yeah, spider.
I love her.
And you make some decisions about putting in some highlights on the spider's, I guess, mandibles.
Yes.
Stuff like that, and it's stuff like that just adds such depth. So when you say it's a basic thing, it's like, well, you definitely have the skill set where it's like, well, I guess it's simple moves to make, but to have that to draw from to make that happen and to do that and to give it
right.
such.
I hear you. Yeah, it's I guess I mean less that the techniques are, coloring techniques are coloring techniques. It's more, I don't use any fancy brushes or anything of that nature to get my textures. It's all extremely a straightforward coloring approach. I think that's what I meant more. But yeah, I came out of oil painting in school. I graduated, the long ago when they said that, this computer, when is that going to catch on? Which is not, it was early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
People were like, computer art. And look at us now. So yeah, I never really updated that to be everyone uses all these really great charcoal brushes now, and every time I try to use them, I'm like, I don't understand, and I just go and use charcoal. So
if it ain't broke, right?
Yeah. You're accustomed to what you're accustomed to. I feel like it would almost take me longer to try to set a brush the way I would want it.
So you mentioned painting, and you've done paintings for all the covers for Orcs, and they are amazing, especially the one for issue 4.
Is that the old woman? That's the old woman, right? Where she's yeah.
I remember you posting about the process of this, but I'm drawing a blank. Did you do that on a black canvas?
No. That's I paint on paper.
Okay.
I don't paint on canvas. Actually, one of the reasons I feel like I can even paint is because I started painting on paper. Canvas has too much of a texture for me, so I actually use it's Arches hot press. It's 150 pound Arches hot press paper, and there's a little bit of tooth, so you can get some dry brushing, but it's pretty smooth. And I use liquid acrylic.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of it needs to be a black light poster.
Oh, 100%. That's actually that is some hard color theory in that poster to do all the brights, because I was stressing that because I didn't want to use any fluorescents because they don't scan well at all, even though they look super cool. So I was trying to get away. I was trying to figure out how to make it feel glowy and fluorescent without using any fluorescent paint. And I feel like I pretty much achieved that, so I was really, really happy with it, but I'm still yeah, I was pretty happy with that cover.
Yeah, I'd say definitely mission accomplished. You know, I'm looking at this on my iPad screen, and it's just like, I love the fact, one, that it's painted, because not only is it still recognizably your style, but it's got such a different lush, you know, quality to it, and then the detail is like amazing in that just you can see, you know, where the paint's building up in certain areas, and you know, especially near her foot, you can see like there's some of the blue swirls.
Yeah, I really globbed it on.
Yeah, but it looks amazing, and it just creates such a I guess a vibe. So as soon as you like see this issue, and you know, it just carries over to the rest of the book, and I think that's a great choice to decide to do that. I think.
Oh, thank you.
Was doing like fantasy stuff and all that, was that always like, you know, and some, you know, some of your mini comics and all that, like Holy Diver, you know, you definitely explore this genre before. Is that something you've always been drawn to though, or?
Yeah, like fantasy and sci-fi have always been like, I've only really like, sci-fi was something that I kind of started drawing later when I became more comfortable drawing like machinery, but like fantasy art definitely has always been like part of my rapport in terms of the stuff I just like drawing, which was interesting. When I was in school, I was kind of like, maybe I'll do kids books because my style is very cartoony, and like back in like 2004 the indie comic scene is not what it is now, and I just wasn't sure where I was going to go, and I'm kind of glad that things, I guess, chilled out or became more like versatile in terms of like who will hire you and what you'll get hired for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, did you hear that? That was my computer.
No, I did not hear that.
Okay, my computer just told me it was 11 o'clock really loud in my ear.
Sorry, I'll do my best not to keep you up too late.
No. I'm working probably till like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Okay.
So I got my kid to bed. I'm good. I'm rocking it.
All right, good. Cool. You mentioned earlier on Twitter you're probably live coloring issue 6 as we speak.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm working while we're talking. If I begin to sound distracted, you may be like, "Yo, dude, just fucking pay attention." But I've always like in like work meetings like doodled while I'm talking anyway. Mm-hmm. So this is very much like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely like, just I need to fidget or do something, and you know, actually recording the podcast, like it was kind of getting to be an issue for me, because I'm gonna purposely make this sound now, but like I would always just like hit my keyboard tray on accident, and then because I'm just like fidgeting all the time. So then thankfully one of my friends was like, and also my chair would creak like hell, and I'd have to like like cut that out or whatever, just because it'd be so damn annoying. And then one of my buddies was like, "Yeah, I record on a yoga ball," and I'm like, oh,
that's so smart though.
And you know, we had a couple yoga balls laying around for the kids and all that. So right now I'm happily bouncing away, fidgeting on a bright pink yoga ball.
That's awesome. I actually have a standing desk. I recently got like one of those like standing mats for it, so like now I can stand forever, which I guess is good. It's good for my feet, my old lady feet.
Yes,
I like to make fun.
Standing's good for you. I would eventually want a standing desk, but you know,
I built one. It was not hard. My dad helped me out. Awesome. It's So yeah, we because my drawing table was like super old, and I kind of like reclaimed it from like being half trash, but it can lift up high enough to stand at because I'm not tall. Yeah. And then like, for my computer, I wanted something where I can stand too, because like, especially like hours of coloring, I have a stool I can sit on when my leg, like I'm tired, but like that long coloring, it's just good. It's good for my circulation, my lower back, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're going hours upon hours upon hours.
Yeah.
You know, my routine is such that, you know, the getting the art done is after the kids are asleep or before everyone's awake. So it's not you know, sitting for large swaths of time. So I'm not like at the point where like, well, I gotta do this because otherwise, it's like, no, I'm usually running around anyway during the day. So.
I gotta get this shit done by tomorrow. But my dude's been great. Like my husband has been on like working like double shifts, and because they're on a shooting schedule this week, and he's been off of school, and his like, you know, day camp that we decided to do this year hasn't started, but he's been like occupying himself all day. Like we've been hanging out in the morning, and then like the whole afternoon he's like just been good, just playing with his toys. Like I high-fived him today. He did so good this week.
Nice. How old?
Yeah.
If you care to share.
He's gonna be 6. He'll be 6 in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah, my daughter recently turned 5, and she's both, you know, very capable of just doing her own thing for a while, but then it usually whenever I'm like, I'm gonna take advantage of this, it's like, nope.
Well, just so you know, like my son is definitely like a really attached kid. Like she's close, you know what I mean? Give her another year and she'll be able to rock out her own stuff all day.
I still got some time. I also got a you know, newly 20-month-old little guy.
Aw. Well, you could just leave them in the crib forever. I mean,
he's a little Billy Goat. He's just climbing on everything, trying to eat everything. But he's definitely more of the, no, you know, Daddy, read this. Daddy, let's do this. Let's do this. It's like, all right, which is fine. You know, of course, you know, I you know, it's what I signed up for. But it's just like, all right, so, you know, I when I dare to try to bring out the iPad, it's like, oh, what's Daddy doing?
Yeah.
Oh, is Elmo on this? No. So no. It's good that you know, that you're able to get that time. And you know, as a parent, you kind of you know, I'm not trying to say you should, but like for me, it's sometimes when it does happen, I'm like, I kind of feel bad, like, oh, I probably should.
I 100% don't feel bad at all. No, the thing is, like, I mean, I don't know, like, because since he's been small, I've always been working. Like, as long as like we do like our mornings together, like I give him a couple hours a day, right? And then he's kind of good to, you know, watch his shows, his whatever, you know, his stories, and then he's got so many friggin' toys. He just plays with his toys.
Yeah.
He's good. Okay.
Well, yeah. Then I think to when, you know, as far back as I can remember, like, no, I just wanted to chill and play with my toys. I'm cool. Like, you know, if I need food or something, you know, Mom.
Right. I feed him.
You know, so yeah, I try to temper that, but yeah.
Yeah.
I still got some time. My daughter's doing some summer classes. Starting
cute.
next week. So, you know, we'll see. It'll just be me and the little guy. So, you know, he's
nice.
And he's still napping, so you know I might luck out.
Oh yeah, they're still napping at 20 months. That's right. Yeah. Oh man, napping was so long ago.
Oh my daughter, she dropped naps like a bad habit, like so fast.
Yeah, that was my son. Like he just suddenly stopped when he was 3. He's like, I'm done napping. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, we were really forcing her naps for a while. And then we realized, like, oh, she's not going down at night. It's like, well, then we need to stop forcing these naps.
Yeah, you gotta just.
So yeah,
keep them up.
She's unfortunately like her father, where she's like, sleep, I guess, like, and then just is awake far too long sometimes and just passes out.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, my kiddo's like been putting himself to bed lately. I'm like, stay up as late as you want. It's summer. He's like, I'm tired now. I was like, all right.
All right. So we have another Twitter question. This is from at Big Five.
Oh, you don't want it to just be us talking about our kids for next time?
I could. I don't think our the listeners are going to be super interested in that.
Everyone's already turned this podcast off by now, just so
except for Matt Smith. He's
still listening.
But at Big Five Army, Kirk Spencer asks, "Are there any comics/artists that helped inspire this series?"
I don't know if it's like a direct inspire so much as like I know it's been done like in Bone. Right. In come on, brain. Like Orcs, I like was reading a ton and was always like super bummed that, you know, that never got done. And yeah, I'm never like directly influenced necessarily by anything. I did this. Orcs originated as an extra when I did Kickstarted like an Orc art book like years ago, like back in 2016. And then I just started like building the world from a little like zine I did as a gaff. So like as a goof. So it's strange to yeah, it's hard for me to like really pin it on one person. Like it's no one. This book is no one's fault but mine. But yeah, like I mean, I always like to, if I have to compare it to like another comic, I always like kind of throw Bone out there. I can kind of throw Orcstain out there, but not really because that's a bit older than this. I did when I started writing it. I wanted to try to keep it PG so that like it would be accessible to like a younger audience. That was important to me. I didn't want to do like some super dark, gritty. You know, those can be funny too,
Yeah.
but like I didn't necessarily want to make that book this go around. So yeah, I'm influenced by like so many different artists and so many different things, and so much stuff has gone by my eyeballs that like gets processed and churned back out into something that I can't really pinpoint one thing. Sorry, that was a very roundabout answer to say no, but kinda.
It kind of is, because you know, Orc seems to be kind of like just like there's no like, oh, I was directly influenced by these things. It just seems like a culmination of all your interests and your style, and just this is what came out. This is
yeah. It's definitely the most me book. Like it's not like a memoir or anything like that, but it's the most me book I've ever done. Certainly, even more so than like the Holy Diver or any of the microcosmics. It's like in both its humor and its like visual style, it's definitely the most I've ever been on a page. So every time someone disses it, I want to like just punch him in the teeth. It's like, what'd you say about me? You know what I mean? Like it kind of feels more personal, which is not a good way to like take criticism. So,
well, you know, with Orcs, you said you decided to keep it like a PG-13 kind of thing, and I think that was a great idea. I'm all for free artistic expression, but I'm also like, well, sometimes giving yourself a limit, or giving yourself like, you know, I kind of want to make this available to, you know, younger people or people, you know, who might be more sensitive to like ultra violence or graphic stuff. Like, you know, I think that also breeds, you know, giving yourself some sort of limits creatively.
Yeah, I think it gives you get your solutions to both like linguistics. I've had a lot of fun like figuring out their you know, their language now that like you remove all swear words. But I think it offers more interesting solutions that you might not have come up with. You might have just done something super violent or gory and gotten that laugh, which I love that stuff. Like that's totally like, that is totally like the humor. I enjoy that humor too. You know, I have a significant trauma collection, but that's not the book I wanted to do for this. You know, like it's especially something so long, something I'm spending so much time on. I wanted it to be accessible to a lot of people, so I feel like I kind of achieved that mostly. Hopefully.
And I think you did a great job of setting up, you know, or at least, you know, showing more darker things, or just bringing about heavier subjects, or just more open subjects with a lot of the stuff, just simple moments with the characters. Like there's a scene with Zep and Pez where they're trying on outfits, and you know, Zep is has the mask on for a specific reason, and then you see the reason. There's something serious and kind of heavy behind that, but
yeah, I mean, I didn't want to do something for kids and then dumb it down for children. And maybe that's because I grew up in the 80s, and I feel like a lot of the children's movies and cartoons, like you think of any like Don Bluth, like any of those movies from the 80s for kids didn't dumb any of that stuff down. I think children are able and very capable of processing heavier things than most people give them credit for. And I think it's okay to touch on those subjects as long as you're not like hideously graphic about it or exploitive about it. Then I think as long as you maintain the gravity of a situation, then it's okay to explore the situation, right? Like don't make light of it. Like obviously it's a serious moment between those two siblings, but it's you do your best. I'm doing my best with like the stuff I want to tackle, and I'm making the choices I'm making, and I'm not saying it's the best choice, but it's the choice I made.
So Well, you brought up an excellent point that I wanted to bring up. Like, it does remind me of the stuff made for all ages back in the 80s. I'm 38,
Right.
so I'm still.
Oh, we're the same age. We're like right there. Yeah.
So we're both rapidly decaying, and it's
in cartoonist years, I'm like 110, right? Like I.
So there's a lot of the same, like, remembering all those types of movies, back when PG was probably closer to R than PG-13 has ever been.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you did a great job kind of harking into that, because I could totally see this, like, Orcs having been like an animated series or an animated movie from the 80s that everyone's like, oh man, remember that was awesome, and
yeah. I hope that it gains its own little cult following. That's all I can really hope for in life, as my own little cult following. But yeah, I mean, that's the era I grew up in, so I hope the sensibilities are updated, certainly, because I'm a more grown-up person now than I was then. But and just, I think society has grown up a lot since then. But in terms of like what it tackles, or the breadth of I guess maturity I wanted to reach is a little broader, I think, than necessarily a kid's comic. Also, they're all adult characters, right? Like Bog and Arn had an adult relationship. I don't go into it, like, because that conversation they had that kind of happens off screen. I like wrote it and I'm like, this is too old, and I took it out because it's not really necessary to the story. I needed it for my head, but you guys don't need it to understand what's happening. And I'm trying to make those choices. Like, if a conversation is too adult to really hit, like if a kid is 10 and I'm like, that may be too much for a 10-year-old to take in, then I have taken stuff out, definitely.
Well, I think I was going to bring that up as well, the relationship between Bog and Arn, is because I think you made the right call in terms of like not being super direct with everything and like showing everything. But I also think it's not.
I feel like it's obvious.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's yeah. There's no subtext. There's romantic relationship
a history there. There was a history
just
there.
By just by what you have there. And I think leaving that conversation out, not having that explicitly said, I think that adds a lot to the characters, and it adds just a little bit more mystery. Like, who knows if that's a conversation you could readdress in a different way later that you probably feel would be more appropriate, or not, because it doesn't feel like it's lacking, but it definitely just.
Yeah, I mean, so I have always been a fan of, there are certain stories that when I have started reading them, I'm into them. And then the more I read, the more is explained. And the more is explained, the less I'm into them, because what I came up with in my head is almost a better fit than what was there.
Yeah.
So, that conversation went however you think that conversation went. At the end of the day, it was just like irreconcilable differences, and they parted ways. And I think that's all you need to know for that moment in time. So Arn comes back.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned, again before we're recording, that Orcs isn't done.
No.
There's plans for at least 2 more volumes of the series.
The story, the larger arc I have, completes itself in 2 more graphic novels. I was signed to like a 3 graphic novel deal. And when the pandemic hit, I think they felt that like releasing it in issues would help drive interest a little bit more. I don't know if it'll be continued to be released in issues as I come out with the other 2 books, but we'll see. I guess I'm not in charge of any of that, and I'll let the people who make those decisions make those decisions. I'm just trying to write the story as best as I can, and get it through. So yeah, so I feel like the book 1 ends and it ends how it ends, right? Issue 6 is coming out next month. I'm coloring it now, but there is a much bigger story to tell that will square itself up, 2 books from now.
Well, I think first off, having it initially as a graphic novel and then having it come out as issues, I think you did a fantastic job making it not feel that way.
Well, good.
It doesn't feel like arbitrary ends to every issue as some stuff like that can feel.
Yeah.
So great job, another great job there.
Hooray!
But on the flip side, personally, I'm like, oh man, I would love this. Just I would totally be all over this as the graphic novel series.
Right, and I think that it's going to be that. I am putting like a little epilogue into the graphic novel to kind of leave a carrot for book 2. I'm going to draw that this weekend, I guess. But yeah, there's so much to do to get done. But and it's I'm like almost there, so I can like taste the finish line. But yeah, it's we've got a little ways to go, right? I did like some basic math, and it's like still another like 450 pages, really.
Wow.
If they're all the same length as this, then it'll be like 600 pages worth of story by the end of it. Yeah. Listen, this is my epic, right? Like originally I wrote this as it was going to be a webcomic.
Okay.
And then when I was doing like Adventure Time stuff for Boom, my editors like pitch something. So I was like, well, I have this, right? So I pitched this, and they're like, oh wow! And I was so surprised when this got picked up. So I'm super glad I even get to tell this story at all, to be completely honest.
Well, we were talking about our kids, and my daughter's starting to read now, and
yeah.
And I'm reading this book, and I'm like, man, she would probably love a lot of this stuff because she likes a lot
the fantasy stuff.
She likes dragons, and she likes a lot of the fantastical stuff. She has a lot of fun with that. So I'm like, oh, she's probably a little too young for this now, but I'm like, I can't wait to have a collected edition, and then that way it's something I can share with her, and
right.
Probably by the time they're all done, we could probably start trying to read them, because she's
100%.
She's definitely getting into comics.
Right.
In that there's a fantastic comic shop in Chicago named Challengers Comics, and I order from them sometimes, and they threw in some like Lumberjanes and some other stuff.
Nice. That's so nice
for her, because they knew I was ordering some stuff for her. So, and she's been taking them around. I don't know if she's making. I see her reading it, but then she's also like making her own story to go with the words.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, 5 is still like my son's still learning. The whole figuring out how to read.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I'm just sitting there like in the corner, like, yes, comics, yes, ooh, I got some stuff for you. Like any of the like all ages stuff that I had, like I have like a Wolverine power pack thing, and then like,
oh, right on.
It's already in her room. Like she already has. It's already over there.
That's awesome.
I saw there's like a trailer for a new Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon geared for really
cute.
young kids. I'm like, oh, Daddy might have that on accident one day. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, my kid, like my son, like for a hot minute got really into the old 60s Batman, and now is like totally off comic books. I mean, in terms of superhero stuff, he's not into that anymore. He's not a big. He sits and draws with me a ton, but he likes making like little movies with his stuff. He's real into like he makes little movies. We found a stop motion app.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty awesome, and he loves doing that stuff. So yeah, he likes his little movies and
the technology like now just to have fun with stuff like that.
Dude, it's so stupid.
Yeah,
like I can't believe that they have a stop motion app. Like I took an animation class so that I could do stop motion because I thought it would be so cool, and now it's just like, here it is for your phone. That's like great. I remember cutting the film with like one of those slicers, right, to like edit it, and I was like, and now it's now I can do it like while holding something in the palm of my hand, and it's just ridiculous. I'm like, this is amazing and stupid.
I just think of like, man, all the epic GI Joe Ninja Turtle fights I could have made movies of.
Dude, right? Oh my god. Yeah, he's just now starting to get into like animating his toys. For a while he was like just doing these really weird videos of like taking pictures of the TV, but like re-editing them like crazy so that he could upload them on YouTube. I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing, but okay, just.
I wouldn't be surprised if I've seen.
So I posted some of his stuff once. It's like you need to like take a hit of acid to watch some of this. Like him and my husband would go into Final Cut Pro and just make the weirdest shit I've ever seen, like Stan Brakhage style, like just colors, lights, and sounds, and let's play the Beatles backwards. I'm like, well, I guess we'll summon the devil today. I don't know what's going on right now.
Like ultimately I had to like, you know, block them all, but there was this like weird kick she got on when, or she's found these groups of videos. There's these like characters called the number blocks.
Okay, I don't know that one.
It's
all right.
it's on YouTube. I think it's like it's from the UK or something like that. But
all right.
you know, it at first she was all about the actual episodes of it, but then some people started like putting like the intro song into like weird filters and like slow down 10,000 times or like just.
Yes, that is the shit my son would do, but with Beatles songs.
Yeah, and so it's like she's getting with that and like different intros to things and like that, and I'm just like, what is this? Like no.
I finally had to tell him to stop because I'm like, dude, you're freaking mommy out. Number one. Number two, he was getting super frustrated because he's like, YouTube keeps taking our videos down. I'm like, baby, it's copyrighted material. So then like I'm like having discussions with my kid about like copyright infringement. I'm like, you gotta stop doing this. You just gotta figure something else, honey. Yeah. And
Beatles was not the best, wisest choice to try to escape copyright.
Yeah, dude, I was like, buddy, come on, man. Like, of all the bands to like fall into and then try to like sneak it online without anyone getting mad, like they're like the worst.
No, I just can imagine your son at school telling people about copyright law.
Okay. So he actually, I remember he started kindergarten, and like a couple weeks into kindergarten, he said to me, he's like, I can't talk about the Beatles anymore. And I was like, why? Because, you know, I don't care. I'm not a Beatles fan, but like, you know, I don't give a shit. Like, let him do whatever. And he's like, no one knows who they are. I'm like, yeah, babe, I told you no one would know who the Beatles are, honey. You're 5. Like, no 5-year-old except you can sing your mother should know from top to bottom and backwards. Like, it's
Netflix
crazy.
had a show called Beat Bugs.
Yeah. Oh
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
All right. You're well aware. All right.
Okay, I'm aware of the Beat Bugs. Yeah, he was into that for a minute, and he's like, the originals are better. I'm like, of course they're better, honey. They're the Beatles. They're, you know, one of the most regarded rock bands of all time. Mommy doesn't like them, but whatever. I'm stupid. I like Weed Eater. Like, don't listen to mommy.
Yeah. So yeah, those. When you brought that up, I'm like, I know exactly what kind of videos you're talking about because your son is not alone. There's just so many of these, and I'm just like, okay. And there's like ones where it's like someone's recording the TV, recording a YouTube video on their phone from their TV, and then just re-uploading it as is, and it's like, what is the purpose of this?
Yeah,
I know. It's like, can we just watch Don Quixote or something? Like,
yeah, I mean, he's 5, so he has an excuse. It's when like, you know, a 35-year-old does it, they're like, kind of like, come on, guys, it's all right. I know you're trying to get clicks, but there are other ways to get attention.
But now she's into like the pancake art videos and
oh, nice. Okay.
So that's better because I get sucked into those too when I'm watching it.
Yeah, for real. No, my kid is really into this show now called Ben and Holly. She's like the Peppa Pig people, but they did a show about like fairies and elves, and he's really obsessed with fairies and elves right now. And I'm like, all right, I'm down. And he's like, are elves and fairies real? And I'm like, I don't know, we should try to catch one. Like I'm trying to feed the beast right now. So it's been fun.
Oh, I remember there was this Twitter thread about a woman who was like a little girl was like putting out letters to like, and she saw it was for like a fairy or something that she thought was living in her tree, and she was responding to her. and then she would like take
Oh.
pictures of herself at like dressed like a fairy, but like then Photoshop down to like size and like it's like, oh, this is me, hi, and then I'll have to find it and attach to you. But it was a very sweet story because then eventually,
Oh, that sounds super
then
cute.
eventually, you know, it was like, oh, they're moving away, and the little girl was upset because she didn't actually get to meet her in person. So she actually met her in person in costume and all that. It's like, well, for one day I can be full size and like, you know.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That's gonna fuck that girl up really hard though later when she's an adult and she's like, that bitch lied to me.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, that's really sweet and heartwarming. But then, yeah, you take a step back, and you're like, these parents let this go on a little too long. Like this has gone a slight bit too far. Because, hopefully she ends up well adjusted.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
listen,
like, oh, that was just a
we
fun
like-
thing someone did for me. That's nice.
right. We lie to our kids about Santa Claus all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah. We're not at that point yet. We haven't like had the questions about Santa Claus yet. So we're like, all right, what do we do?
yeah, he asked me this year if Santa Claus was real, and I said to him the same thing I said when he asked me if God was real. I'm like, do you think Santa Claus is real? And he said yes, and I'm like, all right, then you can still get presents. And he said, oh.
I didn't know this was on the line here. Oh my! I didn't know that was that's where the stakes were at.
Yeah, it's just, you know, now you know what the now you know what it costs.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
Oh,
He asked me if heaven was real once, and I'm like, do you think it's real? He's like, yes. I'm like, then it's real. That's how faith works, honey.
oh boy! Yeah, you know, my daughter's very much about Christmas and all that, but yeah, she hasn't asked about the Santa thing, and you know, my wife and I, we try to like go back to like what were we told, and like one of my earliest memories is actually just like walking out of a room and seeing my parents put the presents into the tree. I'm like, oh, they do that, okay. And
Yeah.
then, like,
Me and my sister knew like way ahead of time and just kind of like rolled with it, so that because we were concerned we would stop getting presents if we let them know that we knew. Yeah, fucking work that system. You got it.
So from Santa, I want to bring it back to some metal.
Oh yeah, we should come back to metal.
So you mentioned doom metal is something you're really into. Is there other kind of like subgenres of metal that you're really drawn to? Were you always into metal, or is that something that kind of?
Oh yeah, I was always into metal. I feel like I was like, my dad was a huge Black Sabbath fan, so I was like listening to like Black Sabbath and Kiss, like, you know, back when I was in high school. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I always fall to doom, though I really like grindcore. Cephalic Carnage's Misled by Certainty is still one of my favorite metal albums of all time. It's just like this kind of like grindcore jazz fusion thing they got going that like I friggin' love. Yeah, a lot of it is sometimes like individual bands. Like I do like a lot of grindcore. Death metal definitely falls. I listen to a bunch of that stuff. Yeah, and then I kind of bounce around. Like I bounce genres. Like I'll like certain bands within a genre, but not necessarily like a whole genre. Like I'm trying to think. I'm never good when you put me on the spot, by the way. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and I've been getting kind of like into like some Swedish like metal. I'm hit or miss with that stuff because like the Swedes are kind of like on this whole extra level of like it's intense.
Yeah.
You know, like I think there's like a big part of me does like my dirty like American kid like just like slop metal, and then like you go to Europe and it's like all very like this precise almost like art form and it's, yeah, I like some stuff and I don't like some stuff. It really depends.
Yeah, the Swedes, but I think something that's kind of like, you know, helped me come around to that kind of Swedish style stuff is a lot of it is kind of done with a smirk, you know. It seems
100%. Yeah.
like Amon Amarth.
Oh no, like I love Amon Amarth. Like those guys are great. You just gotta watch because then there's like guys like the dude from Burzum that like burned a friggin' church down and like murdered a dude and like and is like a fucking neo-Nazi or whatever the fuck he's into right now. But so like, you know, I always find myself like double checking who I'm listening to.
yes,
Especially when it's like European stuff.
yeah.
And I also got into like recently a lot of the like that like Norwegian folk metal, like the stuff that is sort of like neo folk. I'd have to like look at a band name. It's all, I think like Nightland is one of them, and Heelheim, where it's like, you know, like they're hitting pots and pans and just like making growling noises. I'm like, I like all that. And I like, and I like, I don't know, I just check everyone.
Yeah. Well, you know, a couple weeks ago when I was talking to Matt Smith, you know, we kind of had that moment as well, where it's like you hear some like cool new like death or black metal band, you're like, hold on a second, I just gotta do a quick Google search, like
100%.
No one killed anybody, okay, nothing about Nazis, all right,
yeah,
all right, I think I can like them, I think I can like these guys.
yeah, right, like it's like, oh, I really like this stuff, and then you like have to pause it and check them before you continue to enjoy their music.
Or just, you know, maybe sometimes just double check some of the lyrics, because like, okay, you know,
no,
let's figure this out.
It's a tough shot. Listen, man, you got to do your due diligence on whatever you're listening.
You kind of do that with everybody, I think, these days.
It's
even in more poppy music or more mainstream music, you never know when, you know, you're gonna find out. You know, there's always the day someone finds out Meatloaf is a Trump supporter. You know, it's like, oh, come on, man.
Is he though? Like, I don't know. I don't listen to Meatloaf, so
yeah,
he's so off my radar.
I think he's.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. That checks. I'm just going, you know, that 100%.
But then, of course, his daughter's married to the dude from Anthrax, who's very much not. So. Right.
Well, like, you can't go fight someone's pops what they're into. I'll say that. I have enough.
Yeah. So, it gets a little hairy sometimes trying to figure that.
Yeah.
Do you like symphonic metal, like Nightwish or something like that?
That's one of those hit or miss ones, because like I really like Nile. Like, I enjoy those guys, which I think of them as like symphonic, but I don't know I don't know where the genre falls. Like, metal genres are weird to me sometimes. I'm not really good with like what falls under what. But I feel like I always kind of gravitate more towards like, you know, herd of elephant type metal, where it's like you get that like hard like dun dun dun, like the drum beat, which is why I like Doom so much. So it's it depends.
Yeah.
I find that like I'm less into stuff that's super, super technical, even though I appreciate the musicianship in that stuff. It's exhausting to listen to.
No, I totally get it. I've told this story a couple times before, but I'll keep it brief this time so I'm not repeating myself to the listeners. But long story short, someone during one of my college classes gave me 27 death metal albums.
Ooh.
Because he had copies of it. And he's like, oh, here's like my he's like third backups of them or something. He was kind of obsessed about that stuff. Yeah. But I got like 27 like CDs sitting in my so I'm like, oh, let me check all this stuff. And there's a lot of this Swedish technical death metal stuff, and I'm like, I just can't with this stuff. And as I've gotten, you know, decade and a half later, you know, I'm like, well, I kind of wish I kept those things because I'm kind of into some of this stuff now.
Yeah, but you just honestly, all that shit's on Spotify. True. Like, I hate to like plug a company, like screw those guys. I'm sure they're like awful for musicians, but like it is. Yeah, I do. I pay X amount a month, and I do get all the music I could possibly ever listen to, and I find stuff that like I would have never found. Yeah. You know?
I do Apple Music instead of Spotify just because it's easier to manage my library that way. But anyway,
gotcha.
But no, yeah, it's I you know, since you know, starting this show every week, I try to recommend an album, and so I've become, you know, quite habitual about every Friday checking what's the new releases, what's new, and I'm finding a lot of cool new stuff. And you know, I was never really a death metal guy. But over the past couple years, I've really started to get into that, and I guess there's, you know, ultimately a subgenre of death metal, kind of like atmospheric death metal, which is like not all blast beats and growls.
Right.
There's a lot of textures with the guitars, a lot of more just like start and stop chuggy stuff, and then, you know, occasionally, you know, a nice technical solo or something like that. But even then, solos aren't super, you know, apparent and all that. So I'm like, oh, well, I guess this is the thing I found. that's for me.
Right.
And because then I'll go to like an older.
It's kind of like there's a death metal for everybody.
Well, I want to beat this drum to the day I die. There's a genre of metal for whatever mood you're in, man. Like
it's the truth.
Like if I'm feeling a little, it's kind of funny because I was just thinking of this earlier. I'm at the gym and I'm lifting weights and I'm listening to like the Office Ladies podcast.
Yeah.
But then I'm out shopping and I'm listening to like some ultra death metal, like picking out tomatoes.
Oh, but I always find myself doing that. Like the more gentle thing I'm drawing, the more angry shit I'm listening to, and then like the more fucked up thing I'm drawing, the more gentle thing I'm listening to.
Yeah.
Like it's like I gotta draw eyeballs coming out of someone's face. I'll put Donovan on. Like it's like it's My husband has this great playlist called the Serial Killers playlist that is all just that stuff, like that 50s creepy 50s doo-wop kind of. And I'm sure it's called something, but lots of Donovan.
Usually if I'm drawing drawing something a little more dark or gory or something like that, I got like Tegan and Sarah on.
And then, exactly.
I'm drawing like a nice talking scene or whatever. I got Sepultura or a Testament on or something like that. It's like okay.
Yeah.
It's
you just gotta whatever gets you through, right? Like it's whatever.
But just metal is just so wide and so expansive that it's like you can't apply like that sentimentality to any other genre. I think like you can't say there's a country for every mood.
No, but I'll say there's like there's a really big umbrella of alternative music, and even like I'll even say like there's some stuff like R&B is kind of, even though the sound is the sound, that's a pretty big genre just of people who do work in that genre. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough because the thing is, I feel like metal is not its own genre anymore. It's like multiple genres under one giant roof.
It's a medium.
Yeah, it's like a medium. Like I listen to a lot of Mongolian metal, like all those like Mongolian throat singers and
like
those guys. Yeah. But then like I went from there like just like I got there from just like Mongolian folk music, which is like I think I'm gonna butcher because I've never heard someone say that this band it's like Hun Tour or something. And then from them there's this guy called HRAGAHGAH who has this like amazing album called Yensei Punk, which the whole thing is like this fucking like a mix between Tom Waits and I don't know, like something maybe even a little hard. It's like Tom Waits' voice, but like Nick Cave's like when he had like the Happy Birthday band, like it feels like this crazy like intense. It's intense. It's a good album.
That sounds like an intense experience.
It's like one of my favorite. I will post it on Twitter and tag you because it's like one of my favorite albums.
It sounds like something you gotta go sit in a desert and listen to, and then like your path is laid before you when you're done.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to it a lot when I'm writing. He has this crazy like that throat, like the throat singing is like this crazy. It has like a death metal quality because it's growly, but they're like singing multiple notes. So it actually has like this depth to the sound that you don't really get from like a death metal voice. And it's seriously like one of the coolest sounds I've ever heard in all my life. And I'm like, this is, I guess, what I'm listening to for the next 10 years. I'm exploring that genre.
I'm definitely going to check that out. What was the name of it again?
Listen, I butchered the pronunciation of all of that because I've never heard someone say it. I'm like thinking of how to say it phonetically, which is probably the worst idea. So I'll just send you a link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you bring up Mongolian, and I actually started listening to a Mongolian death metal band. They got a really unique name. It's called Growl of Clown.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Are they? You send me those. You send me those guys, and I'll send you my guys.
It's more of a straightforward kind of death metal thing, but I was like, they're Mongolian, and like there's
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because again, like I said, I've been going. You go to the iTunes new releases and all that, and I just saw this. I'm like, okay, Growl of Clown. What's this sound like? Because I've learned right away that like even now like album covers are a lot like comic covers these days on mainstream books. They don't really tell you you're gonna get, right?
No, like they don't do justice to whatever you're gonna hear. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, this is interesting because it reminded me of a few months ago I came across like a Mexican thrash band, like.
Oh, word.
And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. It was actually in Spanish and all that. And I was like, oh, this is like if Slayer was good.
Sorry, I should not let.
But
listen, Slayer found a song they like to play, and then that song was their
I love that song
songs
they
for...
play. It's a great song.
It's a good song.
And yeah, like it's funny. I'll get into conversations with people because I always like to know like if someone's like, oh, what they're like their running playlist is or whatever. It's like
right.
And if it's metal, I was like, oh yeah, man, I lift like Slayer and do all this other stuff, and I'm like I just can't. Like Slayer is just so.
They, you know what? Listen, I mean, if I'm gonna go passe. I'll listen to Cannibal Corpse. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Cannibal Corpse did what Slayer wanted to do, but yeah. I think more competently. We're unfortunately for them much less successful. Yeah. But I'll always listen to Corpse Grinder. Yeah. Fucking growl out whatever he needs to growl out that week, like Yeah, To Decompose is still just like a killer hook, and I'll listen to that. One of my favorite things I saw recently was someone doing those internet memes of Corpse Grinder. What he like collects all the he does like the claw hook games wherever he goes, and he collects and he donates them, whatever. And I'm like, I just wanted to like find. I was just hoping someone like took like that's all those pictures and all that, and did one of those like now this video type of videos to share on Facebook, because I'm like, do I have to do this myself? Because
oh, dude, so I'm not on Facebook, so I don't get to see any of that good stuff. But yeah, Corpse Grinder Fisher, like I saw enough behind the scenes on Cannibal Corpse's albums of him like singing that like he's just precious, and I love his little teeny tiny glasses he wears as he like reads the liner notes, so yeah, it's I like the whole vibe that band has always had. Hopefully, nothing terrible comes out about them, because
I hope not, because he seems like a genuinely like just
chill dude,
just a genuinely chill good person.
Yeah,
and I'm ragging on Slayer a bit, a lot, but all respect to them, dude. They did what they did and all that.
Yeah. Listen, everyone takes their own path. We kid because we love.
Granted, the only Slayer song I listen to is just the first minute and a half of Hell Awaits, and that's it. But that's me. That's me.
No, I listened to them a ton when I was in like college and high school, and they hold a place in my heart. I got to see them live with Megadeth.
I'm sure that was an experience.
When they were doing that tour, that was a really awesome concert. And they're the old dudes. They've been around. They've done it.
Yeah.
They were, aside from Metallica, probably one of the more successful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Metal bands. So
I think I read somewhere they've actually more successful than Megadeth in terms of overall sales and money made. I'm not 100% sure on that though.
Yeah, I feel like they've been in the game continuously, whereas like Megadeth, I feel like almost like went away for a while, like after the 80s, and then sort of came back in like the late 90s when you had that like resurgence of like new metal and stuff. I feel like I don't know, I'm very bad with like
Megadeth. They started off the 90s strong, and then they either tried to copy Metallica and did that Risk album, or if you have Dave Mustaine say he tried to appease Marty Friedman to stay in the band by doing something different. And that kind of like put, that didn't stop Marty Friedman from leaving the band, and that kind of like lost a lot of people. And then they kind of floundered a bit, I think, in the early 2000s, and then kind of recouped towards the end. And now the last album they put out was really good. I'm not a huge Megadeth fan, but I can recognize like, oh, this is pretty. Now that Dave's voice is older and not as nasally and whiny,
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
appreciate it a little bit more. But
I feel like I like them more probably when I was younger. But I got a chance to do that Death by Design book with heavy metal. I did like 8 pages in that.
Oh, I did not know you were part of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was cool. But yeah, I can't say I listened a ton to the newer stuff.
It sounds like just good Megadeth,
Yeah, that's what I figured. I feel like I'm not as into that sound anymore. Neither good nor bad. I just kind of sort of moved on and listened to different stuff now. But yeah, that was an interesting job to do. I was surprised.
I had another a friend and a guest on, John Lamantia. He was on there as well. Oh, cool. And we, as is the nature of this podcast goes, we just actually didn't get to it to talking about that. So I had to ask you, like, what was, what can you say about that experience? Was there like a heavy kind of like approval process, or?
I mean, honestly, I was surprised, one, that one of my stuff things got picked, because you kind of like, pitched your couple sentences based off a song, and they were both newer songs that I'd never heard before. So I pitched like 2 different ideas, and he picked one of them, which I was surprised about. And generally the approval process was pretty chill. They didn't get on me too hard about too many things. Like, I kind of like wrote it and sent it over, but I wrote a script and then sent thumbnails, and I feel like my vision was fairly clear what I was going to do, and they were cool with it, and they just let me go. So that was neat, but I don't know what anyone else's approval process was like at all.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, that's cool. It was one of those projects where it's like, man, I wish I was a little bit more established. I could have been aware of this and just tried out for it.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, like, I didn't even get like a contributor copy. Like, they paid nice, but like, I didn't even get a like, the book is like $50. Yeah. It's like such a ridiculous. No one will ever see that story. I think I posted it on my Instagram last Halloween, because I'm like, you guys aren't gonna buy this fucking thing. It's a story I did, and no one, heavy metal's not gonna hunt me down. They don't give a shit about me. So
I'll have to scroll back and check it out then.
yeah. It was around October of this past year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, we've covered a whole bunch of stuff that you're doing now, that you're, have done in the past. Is Orcs is what is in your immediate future, or is that something you can't really talk about? Is there any other?
So once this book is square, like once issue 6 is in, I get all my ancillary material in next week. Like, I'm gonna take a little Orcs break for like a month or 2.
Well deserved.
And, like, get back into like writing like book 2, and maybe try to write book 2 and 3 together so I can just finish it. But yeah, I have a bunch of stuff I would like to get to for me, and then stuff I would like to get to pitch with another writer. But in terms of like because I do have 2 more books waiting in the wings to finish for this, I'm not feeling too pressured to jump into any new projects. I'm also feeling a little, I think, tired. Like, I'm gonna deflate probably for a minute when this is done, and like regroup during July and August, and before I head into the fall and start hitting it again. I wanted to paint for a little while too. Like, I kind of wanted to take like the end of July and into August and just do a couple paintings, like a painting series.
Well, that's incredibly important to do. I mean, you've pretty much, you're doing everything on this book. you've earned a break to kind of just like you said, decompress and just kind of like.
Yeah, just chill for a minute,
and do some fun things, and then
Yeah, like we were like me and I, we were talking about like, not necessarily going on vacation because of like the pandemic's still a thing, but like my parents live near the shore, like you know what I mean, like just do like some family stuff, and then like creatively for me, just do some stuff that like I just haven't had time to do. Maybe like a short, like something for me, like just paintings, which I really love painting. So I don't know. I'll figure it
Well,
out.
that's an incredibly important thing to do, and I'm glad that you're gonna, hopefully have some time and give yourself some time to do that, because I think a lot of us don't do that. Creators,
Yeah,
it's like if you're
yeah.
not constantly creating, but it's good that you have that deal that you have 2 books, so you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I can breathe a little bit.
But yeah, I know what I'm doing probably for the next couple years. Anything extra I add to this will be kind of like I want to take on more stuff. Um, but yeah, definitely because this felt like such a hurdle. I think I'm gonna take like a little breath
Cool.
next couple months. Yeah. But then I'll get Jonesy again. Like by the end of August, I'm gonna be like, I start drawing boxes and putting shit inside. Like I'm gonna start biting my knuckles or something. I don't know.
Well, we have one last Twitter question, and that is from
Oh, cool.
John Westhoff at Anti-Drummer. He wants to know, who's the better frontman, Odorous Orungus or Bruce Dickinson?
Fucking Odorous. Like I like Bruce. Like he's the guy now, right? Like that's. I feel like they went through a couple people after Odorous, but yeah, Odorous, man. Like I miss him. They did that cover on like All My Friends Are Dead or something like that, and like I cried when they did that cover on a I forget what show it was like some YouTube show, and it was like some of our friends had died. It was like a cover of one of
Was
their
it
songs.
2 Minutes to Midnight? I think does a lot of covers.
Yeah. I think that was it. So yeah, and I got all choked up over that because they did like a little thing to Odorous. I was like, oh, bud. It's you know, he. Everyone has their demons they're fighting, and he died so young. Like it's shitty, but I loved that. Yeah, I liked that shitty sense of humor he had.
So was Guar a big band for you, or?
Yeah, no. I mean, yes and no. I love the aesthetic of Guar, and I've always had this conversation with people. Like, there are Guar songs, like individual songs, that I think are like some of the best rock songs, but like as an album, they're terrible. They don't do like the package isn't there, but like there are some Guar songs that I will put on any playlist that I put together that has like metal songs on it. And yeah, it's just tough. Like I just can't get through a whole album. Necrogoblicon is like that too. Like they have some songs that I just love, and then I can't but I can't sit through a whole album of it because it's just too much.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up too, because that's Necrogoblicon is like one of those bands where it's like, I like the joke, the setup.
Yeah.
And it's but yeah, I just can't sit with it for too long. And
listen, their song Bears, I listened to that over and over and over again for like a day. Like the first time I heard it, I'm like, I love this song so much. Like I get like really into like very individual songs, but like the rest of that album, I was like, I just want to listen to Bears.
Well, we still come from the age where bands would put out singles and you could buy the single.
100%. Yeah, I think some of this, but also like I'll listen to something like, I don't know if you remember this band, The Devil's Blood.
No,
their frontman killed himself like years ago. But I was into The Devil's Blood. I listened to that album top to bottom for months. Like I can't listen to them again. Like it took me years. I had to like put them down. And then Agoraphobic Nosebleed, that last album they did with that female singer, it was kind of like a doom album. Was it Gnaw? I have the vinyl of it. That was only like 4 songs, but they were so good, and I listened to that like incessantly for like a month and a half. I couldn't stop listening.
Yeah, that kind of happened with me with like Metallica. Like I was such a hardcore Metallica like fan in my teen years and early, adulthood, that now it's like I would still list them as my favorite band of all time, but I can't recall the last time I actually put on one of their songs to listen to.
Oh, fair, yeah. No, I'm still listening to Agoraphobic Nosebleed. Like them and Pig Destroyer, definitely if I have to go walk anywhere, I just put that on and punch my way to wherever I have to go.
Have you listened to much Cattle Decapitation?
My husband loves cattle decapitation. I find myself like putting on like a song now and again. I don't know like what it is. I'll listen to a Pig Destroyer and Agoraphobic Nosebleed and then the Cephalic Carnage, and then like I'll put on Cattle Decapitation and be like, I'm not feeling it. Like it's like they're all kind of that same wheelhouse, but yeah, I don't know what it is about like. They're good. They're an amazing band. Yeah. I'm not saying anything bad about them.
No, a buddy of mine's a really big fan, so I've like been trying to give them a shot in my rotations. You know, just because they're excellent songs. My husband threw them on like a couple of weeks ago. We were in the car, and I was like, "Who's this?" He's like, "Cattle Decapitation." I'm like, "Oh, right, the guys I always listen to." You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, it's like, okay, babe. They're actually like really crazily good musicians. Like.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah. They're super.
Yeah,
because
my buddy was sending me the videos of them like doing playthroughs and like all this like weird tapping and stuff on the bass, and I'm like, I'm not really hearing that in the song, but good for them. Like,
right.
And you know, there's some. It was. I liked it more than I thought I would. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, because again, I wasn't huge into death or anything like death metal and all that, so I really wasn't like. You know, you see any of their album covers or whatever, you know, you're like, I'm not gonna understand what's going on here. This is beyond me. But
oh no, yeah, I mean, it definitely falls into like the stuff I generally listen to. I don't know, they don't hit my rotation so often. Yeah. Sometimes when I do like a like a radio shuffle or something like that, they'll come on. I'm like, oh, these guys, and but that's been a while.
Okay, good. Awesome. I've had an absolute blast chatting with you about all this. If you could let everybody know in internet land where they can find all your awesome stuff and you on social media and all that, now is the time.
Okay, so yes, so on Instagram I am Larsen Project. On Twitter I'm Larsen_project, and my website is thelarsenproject.com. It's LARSEN, not SON.
Perfect.
So
nice and straightforward.
Yeah, it's always the same, some variation of that.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. I had an absolute blast chatting with you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. Please be sure to join me next week with my guest, artist of She Said Destroy, True Cult, and so much more, Liana Kangas.